Time now to do some business. Good afternoon. I am Sandra Esinam Apeno. Bank's profit for the first half of this year went up by about 15.5% to 1.9 billion cedis. This is according to the latest banking sector report. However, the income is lower than the 36.3% growth registered during the same period last year. Here is a business desk report.
According to the latest banking sector report, the decline in profit levels was due mainly to sharp increases in the three cost elements. The central bank, however, said the industry remained sufficiently profitable during the first half of 2020, although increases in interest expenses, operational costs, and high loan loss provisions constrained profitability growth. Growth in net interest income also marginally declined to 16.5% in the first 6 months of this year. This is attributed to a much higher increase in interest expenses on the back of increased term deposits and relatively more expensive borrowing. This is attributed to a much higher increase in interest expenses on the back of increased term deposits and relatively more expensive borrowings. Interest income, on the other hand, grew by 13.7%. A much lower incremental change than the 9.4% a year ago. This partially offset the increase in interest expenses. However, despite the slowdown in credit growth during the period which affected interest income from loans, increases in investments sustained the overall interest income of banks. Also, net fees and commissions grew strongly at 10.3% from 3.7% over the period, due partly to more usage of electronic banking products and services in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Operating expenses also shot up by 12.9% during the first half of 2020 from 7.6% a year ago. This was due to the sharp 17.3% increase in banks' other operational costs, attributed largely to costs associated with the safety protocols and containment measures of COVID-19, as well as activation of business continuity plans during the period.
Away from the banking sector, President Akufo-Addo has challenged African countries that have not regularized their African Continental Free Trade Area membership to do so before the end of this year. Handing over the headquarters of the African Continental Free Trade Area to the AU Commission, President Akufo-Addo pledged Ghana's commitment towards effective implementation of the world's biggest trade agreement. Meanwhile, expressing optimism, the program's officer of the Third World Network Africa, Sylvester Bagoro, says the agreement can only be effective if the goods of origin policy are clearly spelled out.
Even look at what they call the protocols on goods. That means you are trading goods across Africa. We have what we call the rules of origin. That is the passport of the product. What product can actually qualify as a Ghanaian or African product is one. Number two, how the selection is done in terms of the goods. And so I want to explain this so that it will be clear. First of all, in terms of the selection of the products, that is where the president talked about the agriculture and all that. We have 90%, 70%, and 3%. And let me explain. The 90% means that all products that are coming from the rest of Africa who are party to the agreement will enter duty-free, quota-free. It means that we are not going to charge duties on them when they come to the port. They just come in like that. They'll be treated as Ghanaian products. So that must be clear. Secondly, we also have an agreement, we have our 7% that they are in the wisdom of the technical people that there's a need to protect these sectors. And so they are going to open up, but then it will take much more time. And that is one of the dimensions. And thirdly, there's what they call the 3%. For that one, they are not going to be excluded. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that this is a very good, we have gotten the secretary, it is very good, but how it will benefit the many Ghanaians and Africans across the country will depend on how the rules are defined and also depend on how the selection is done.
That will be all for business for now, but I'm back in just about 15 minutes with the marketplace. But after the break, we do have sports.